G'day Bifrosters, welcome to part 3 of the pole setup. So what we're doing here is I've just imported my telephone pole instance and made a couple of edits. So the one that came in was this guy, and the edit I've made is essentially just that. I'm also playing with the idea, so essentially just that. It's taking the little transformer box off the back for the second instance. I'm also playing with the idea of putting another wire in here, but for now we'll just stick with this. So what I had to do, just to show you, if I import this again, that's how it comes in. It's a very, very big telephone pole. So what I've done, we'll just get rid of that for now, is obviously I've rotated it to be upright in the Y. I believe it was created in Blender. It's a Turbo Squid model, it's free and created in Blender, so of course the Z-axis is reversed in Blender. I've rotated it to fit into my space, and I've scaled it down, and this is important. I've made it 12 meters high, and the reason I've made it 12 meters high is that's the average height for a telephone pole as far as I can find on the internet. So my units are in meters. I'm not expecting to do any kind of simulation, so in this case I wanted to keep the scale 1:1, and most telephone poles are 12 meters high. So where to from here? We have the instances in, there they are, they're in their own group, they're happy. What we need to do now is create the attachment points for the wires that'll be instanced along with all of the instances that happen. All that I'm going to do there is I'm going to put in locators where the wires will attach to the poles. So let's create a locator like that, and we'll make sure we're moving on all axes, and I'm just going to snap it, holding down V. I'm going to snap it there. I'm going to drop it down till it sits pretty much about where the wires are going to attach. So, I mean, my plan for this was never to get this close, or even this close, but more like that. So I've not really made much of an effort to go for realism. It's just got I mean, medium shot is the closest we're going to get on it, and it's for a game. Well, it was for a game project that would be mostly top down, so really they're just shadow casters for my purposes. But in terms of building this instance, a setup in Bifröst, I mean, if you're going to add actual cable connectors and wires and all of that kind of thing, go nuts. The instance is super fast, it's great. So now I'm just going to scale that down. Yeah, 0.2 is good. The scale doesn't matter, it's just a visual thing for me, and then it's just a matter of duplicating it and getting it centered in the other ones. So I'm just holding down V and middle clicking to get it to sit on the center. Duplicate that, V, duplicate that, V, click, blah blah blah. And these guys are going to be my attachments. So because I like to be able to come back and remember what I'm doing 6 months from now, I'm going to give them a name, I'm going to give them their own group, and I'm going to pop that group inside the instances. So now it's all just one unit. So pretty much now we're at the point where we want to get it into Bifröst. So let's create a curve. CV curve will do. Snap it to the grid for now. I don't even need to make it random, I can make it. Not with a CV curve, I can't. So I can do something like this. Get enough points to actually start the curve. Then I can scale the curve out. So we get quite a long line. And importantly, rebuild the curve. So I'm going to rebuild it for now. I'm just going to take this up to 12 just to give us a good starting point. So you can have a look and you can see the control vertices in there. And this is going to become our curve. So I'm going to call this master curve 1. And then I'm going to duplicate it a couple of times. It doesn't matter that they're all in the same place. We can happily move them, change the CVs later. But I just want the ability to have more than one curve, and we'll just group those as well. And we'll call this paths. Paths will do. So they'll become the paths that we run our instances on. And with that, we're about ready to get into Bifröst. What I'm going to do, instead of the usual where I'd select something like this and then create graph to get it into Bifröst, I need to get this in in a reasonably specific way, because I'm going to be controlling this from outside of Bifröst. I'm going to be doing this in Maya. For this case, what I'm going to do is just open up the Bifröst editor again, select nothing, create an empty graph. Just an empty graph. And now I need to build some inputs. First input I need to build is a curve. I'll drag that in just to... No, I won't. No, I won't. Now I have to remember how I did this. I know. We make a value. I'll change that value to an object. I'm going to drop that in there. And we're going to start just making sure our names are good. So curve in is the first thing, then we'll change this value to a matrix 4x4. It's a transformation matrix. These will be for the attachment points. So I'm going to need 4 of them. So this is just all the prep we're doing before we go into the node editor. Letting Maya handle the renaming for me. So that's those. So what else do we need now? The rest of this is going to be taken up with controls, but what we do need to get in is the instances, and we need to get pretty much both of them in. So I'm just going to do a little bit of a cheat. I'm going to go back to object and go to array, go OK, and then turn on fan in and drop this in here. Because I want to bring the instance meshes in as an array. I have no idea if this is going to work, but I'll tell you in a second when we try it. Let's just move this to the top, sorry, and down one, like that, break that connection. And now you can see we've got room for one curve coming in. And actually, now I think about it, that should probably be an array as well. So we'll set the array there. And because I'll be bringing in however many curves I want to bring in, because I want to build in the ability to switch between them. So we've got the curves coming in, the instances coming in, and the 4 attachment points as per our outliner here. I can't think of anything else that isn't controls right now, so this is all about just getting the objects into Bifröst. So let's save this just to be safe, and we'll call it Pose Rebuild. I'll be making this file available with the video. So we can close that down. Actually, let's not, because I want to do a little bit of screen space sorting out. We'll just open up the node editor, and I'm going to drop that in there. There we go. So what I'm going to need in the node editor, I'm going to need the Bifröst graph, like so. I'm going to need all of my curves, like that. And we'll pop those up there for now, keep them all slightly organized. And I'm going to need my attachment points. And this is all the bringing stuff into Bifröst from Maya thing that we do. So we're going to now think about what we're bringing in, and there's a reason why I set up the different things in the Bifröst graph like I did. So here are my attachment points, and those are matrices. What I need to do is bring these attachment points in at the position they're at. I'm going to be using your offset from the pivot point of the instances to calculate their position and rotation, which is super important. So I'm going to go with the world matrix of the shape, because that's going to give me, I believe, and don't quote me because I'm not a rigger, that moved, didn't it? It's going to give me the rest positions, and that's what I'm after, is the rest position. So let's go world matrix 0 into attachment 1. We'll do the same for all 4. Maya tutorials. You're most mostly just watching people move nodes around. Could be worse. Those guys don't need to be in my graph at all, so we get rid of that. And let's just quickly turn good snapping on, and we'll get all these lined up and organized a bit. I just like to do this because it enables me to find things quickly and get things sorted out fast. So that's the matrices, the world matrix of the attachment shapes come in. It's great. Now we need to do the curves. Let's get the curves going. The curves again, world space 0, and they get to go into the curve in. So world space 0, curve in 0, and it's going to build the next one for us, which is great. So we'll be able to get those in just the same way. And those are good. Don't need those in my graph. And let's just get ourselves nicely organized like that. Let's give this a little bit of space so we can see what we're doing. And then last but not least, we need to get the instance meshes in, and that is the 2 poles. Bring those in. We'll get rid of those because we don't need them in our graph. Pole 1, pole 2. Thank you. World matrix. No, it's going to be world mesh, isn't it? Open out for me, thank you. There's the first one, and there's the second one. So now, if we go back to Bifröst, we can test to see how this has worked. Let's hide our instances and our paths for now, just so we can see. And we're just going to do a get from array, curve in first. Output that. So these should all be the same, index 0, 1 and 2. Cool. Let's test to see this is all nice and working. We'll show that. Go to the control vertex, move that out there, and remember that's curve 2. Hide that again. Back here, go to 1. And now you see that our changes haven't reflected. So I've done something wrong there. I'm going to need to sort that out. I believe that I might need to just do something like this, just to double check. Yep, there we go, that's working. So I think this might be the wrong way to do it in terms of the curve in, or I'm not putting in the right stuff. So if I go back to my node editor and check that out, let's see what's going on. Aha. There's the curve coming into the strand, so that's the attachment that it makes in Bifröst for me. World space is correct. Yeah, I may have just put that into the wrong. Yeah, that's interesting. Let's double check that. So we'll set that array to 0. We'll break that connection. No, that was just me misnaming and mislabeling stuff. So that did work, and that's great. And then we can do the same here for the instance array. So there's index 0 and there's index 1. That's perfect, that's great. So now we just have to see if we've actually got anything in the matrices coming in, and I don't expect that we don't, but the easiest way is possibly just to throw down a little sphere, just because I like to see what's going on. So we'll make it a very little radius, and we'll go to the transform. We'll go to this guy, matrix to scale rotate transform, and let's just put the translation into the sphere position, put the sphere position out, and that seems to be doing the biz quite nicely. We can change this and just watch them move. Okay, that's all working, which is awesome. That's all I'm going to do for this video. I just wanted to make sure that we can get everything into Bifröst, and in the next installment we will do actually start instancing and start working on our controls. Okay, thank you very much.